What's up, guys? Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My goal is to help inspire you to make the changes in your daily habits that allow you to walk, talk, and breathe like a champion. Subscribe below so you guys don't miss any of the content. You are only one small change away from creating all the success that you deserve. Being a champion's a choice. The rest is up to you. I'll see you guys soon. So I've been having a lot of discussions lately with my students and even just colleagues and people that I work with, and we've been discussing a lot about making money doing what you love. And normally, you know, I'm sitting here talking and I might do interviews, and today I'm gonna break that wall where I'm gonna talk to Eric, who's behind the camera today. And this is more of a breakdown concept of different things. And so first thing I want to ask you, Eric, let me ask you this.
Yep.
And this goes to everybody out there listening. If you could make $1 million, would that change your life?
I think so. I think it would.
$1 million,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
right? Like we'd be silly to say $1 million would not change our life.
Yeah.
Now, how about this? How about $500,000? Would that change your
that
life?
would change, yeah.
Right? Like it's a no-brainer. Like that kind of money will change your life. You can do a lot of different things with it, but the problem is how do you make $1 million?
Well, I don't know.
How do you make $500,000?
I don't know.
Right? And so those are the questions. Like, man, it would be great, you know. And a lot of times we set these goals. We're like, man, I want to make $1 million. Okay, great, that's the goal, but how do you get there, right? So it seems almost unachievable. Now, I'm gonna break it down through fighting a way that you can make $1 million just by fighting, right? And you can take the same concept of any industry, and if it's something you truly enjoy doing, and if it's something you can make money with on your own, then the formula, it really does work. So follow with me on this. So, okay, let me ask you. I know you're not a fighter, but how can you make $1 million fighting?
I don't know. Taking a lot of fights, sponsorships.
Taking a lot of fights, sponsorships, maybe, you know, but for a lot of guys, taking a lot of fights, you know, you're gonna get paid $1,000 here, $5,000 there if you're lucky. Sponsors nowadays are only paying you, you know, a little bit, and they want to give you free product. So let's put this in a pool of ideas, okay? To make $1 million, look at the top guys in the UFC,
Okay.
right? How many are they making $1 million?
Probably.
The top guys, right? Yeah, so like the top guys, you know, Conor McGregor's, John Jones, you just look at the payouts, and these guys are absolutely making $1 million plus. I think Conor made like $20 million or something on his last fight, right? So the money's there. So now, at the beginning of the conversation, it was like, I don't even know how to make $1 million. So if you look at the top guys in whatever your industry is, at least I can set a goal of like, okay, that person can make $1 million. So now let's figure out what I knew to get there. I'm gonna use fighting as the breakdown for us to follow. Okay, so I want to make $1 million. I got to be like Conor McGregor or one of those guys. I don't need to have the attitude and all this stuff, but I need to be at that level. I need to be UFC champion for me to make $1 million. So if I'm an amateur, if I'm a guy just starting out, that could seem like a very long way away, right or wrong.
Yeah.
So if I've never even fought before. So what do I have to do to become UFC champion? Well, let's reverse engineer it. In order for me to be UFC champion, I have to be one of the top guys in the UFC, right? So now for me to be one of the top guys in the UFC, I have to be in the UFC, right? So how do I become one of the top guys in the UFC? That's when I'm getting to the UFC, I have to do well and do well enough that they actually bump me up to the ranks where I start making the money and I start rising up to fight the guys that are gonna get me to that stage. But how do I get to the UFC? You need fights, right? So once you get fights, now, just by getting fights, is that gonna get you in the UFC?
No.
Probably not. You know, you're gonna get fights, but guys that are 0-25 have a lot of fights, right? So if you're 0-25, are you ever gonna get in the UFC?
No.
If you're 0-25, are you ever gonna get a chance to make that elite level money?
No.
No. So how do you get to the UFC without being 0-5? You win fights, right? So you gotta win fights. You gotta win fights, and you gotta be able to put a winning record together. So how do you do that? Well, first you gotta win a fight, right? And then you could build from there. So now, once you've won a fight as a professional, you're starting the process of building up. But then, just because you win one fight doesn't mean that you're all automatically to get in the UFC. You're gonna have to do the trial and error process. You're gonna have to keep winning. You're gonna have to keep building. You're gonna have to change some things along the way. But 5, 6, 7, 8 fights in, you're getting closer and closer to getting that opportunity to go fight in the UFC, which then will give you the opportunity to climb up the ranks, which will then give you the opportunity to become UFC champion, to then what? Oh my God, I potentially have a chance to make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So now you're looking at this process, but as an amateur, that can still seem so far away. So how do we even get to that level of having a winning streak as a pro? Well, you got to win fights as an amateur. And so once you win fights as an amateur, you're gonna have to build your skill set before you go pro. So once you build your skill set, win some championships, do some jiu-jitsu tournaments, do everything you could possibly do to set yourself up for success before you go to that pro level. So many guys are so eager to jump the line and go, you know what, I'm a professional fighter. They don't know how to grapple, they don't know how to wrestle, they don't know how to strike, they don't know how to box, whatever it is. They're so eager to just say that I'm a professional fighter that by removing your development process, you're already setting yourself up for failure and you'll never be able to reach that goal. So, okay, now I'm winning fights, but let's rewind that again. What do I have to do to get to that point? Well, you gotta have your first fight, right? And then you gotta train for that first fight. Then you gotta build for all that. So then we put this whole thing together. Now, before the conversation started, it was like, I have no idea how to make $1 million. Well, now we reverse engineered it. Now let's play the whole thing forward. Starts off by finding a gym. Train your ass off, develop the skills, get your first amateur fight. Once you get your first amateur fight, now at least you have the ball rolling. Take as many amateur fights as you can to start developing your process so you can start winning championships and you can remove any kind of errors in your game before you go pro. That way, so once you do go pro, you are now able to beat the guys that didn't go through that process. You're gonna allow yourself to have a growth spurt and a winning streak. You're gonna keep fighting and keep building until you build a name for yourself, and then you've got a track record. Then you get picked up by one of the big shows. You get picked up by one of the big shows, whether it's UFC, Bellator, 1FC. Then, because you've done all the previous work, now 1, 2, 3 fights, you're building a name in the big show. You start climbing up the ranks and all of a sudden you get that shot. Whether you win it or not, you're in the conversation. And then by keep pushing through that process, because of the belief in everything you've done prior to, all of a sudden you have the opportunity to become world champion. And with that right there, you've already done all the steps that have created your opportunity to potentially make $1 million plus, well over that, as long as you keep pushing. Now, the reason why I say $1 million, because that's the goal. But we started this conversation with, would $500,000 change your life? But the goal might have been $1 million. Maybe you came shy, but you still made enough money to change your life doing what you love doing. All you had to do is lay out the process. Now here's the problem that people do. They set these big goals, but they have no idea how to get it because it seems so far away. You have to set little milestones. You have to see how those are attainable. And then as you start climbing to those milestones, you start achieving them, you realize that you're getting closer and closer and closer. And using this concept of from an amateur to a pro to a world champion, you can lay that out with any industry. You could just take the pieces of what you know have to happen in that industry, and then you have to put the work that's going to be involved to that. And then through that, you can look at the pieces and go, oh my God, okay, I've been doing this, I need to do this. And then you can give yourself a real shot at doing something incredible. And that is how you could potentially make millions and millions of dollars doing what you love doing. But it's up to you. You have to do the work, you have to have the vision, and the most important part is you have to have the work ethic. Because if you do not believe you can do it, and if you do not put in the work, you're never gonna get there.
And do you think that maybe failing is, well, not maybe, but failing is part of that process of...
You are gonna fail so many times along the way. But the thing is though, once you have the blueprint laid out, you can fail, but here's the thing, people think failing is going backwards. Incorrect. If you fail by trying new things, you are failing forward. You are getting closer to that goal because you learn new ways that you will not get there. So as long as you keep going and you keep building and you keep learning for it, you could see the next goal. The problem is that we get blurred because when there's so many goals along the way to get to the main one, the pathway is too muddy. But we got to see the goal that's right in front of us. Obtain that, get to the next one. Obtain that, get to the next one. So going through this, let me ask you, Eric, could you see how you could potentially, if you were a fighter, could you see it more clearly how you can make all that money fighting?
Yes.
Now, do you think you could take that same formula and apply it to filmmaking?
Yeah, I can.
How about to any other sports?
Yeah.
It's right there. Any industry is going to be the same as long as you have your starting point and your end point. You could fill in the gaps. I mean, essentially, that's how you build stories. That's how you build movies. That's how you build books. You got to start with the beginning and find the end and then fill in the in-between. But as long as you can see those and you have a clear vision of where you're trying to go, man, it's up to you at that point. Because if you want to succeed, you will. But then again, if you want to fail, any excuse will do. We're making the same mistakes over and over and over, and that can be something as stupid as showing up to practice late. That translates to everything. It means you are not willing to make the adjustments in your own life that you need to make in your game. Everything translates. If you don't think so, go fucking fight. Watch. We'll end it on that. No breakout today. Tomorrow, clean your ass, head out of your ass.